all day, all year round.
It's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are.
WADR.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and 1 o'clock in Port Harcourt. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. First, our top stories. CSO's forum in Guinea-Bissau alleges vote manipulation in presidential election as Embalo claims victory. United States leaves 15% tariffs on Ghana's cocoa and key exports.
This additional inflow is significant to help soar our foreign exchange earning and help address our balance of trade issues.
Guinea's transitional council splits over new law governing political parties.
You can't require so many funding members for a political party. This law needs to be a solution. It's becoming a problem.
WFP warns terrorist attacks to fuel record hunger in Nigeria's volatile north. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. We'll begin in Guinea-Bissau, where civil society groups are raising alarm over what they describe as attempts to manipulate the results of the 23rd of November presidential election. In a joint statement issued, the Civil Society Organizations Consultation Forum and the Popular Front accused regional election commissions of blocking candidate representatives from observing the vote counting process, a move they say violates the country's electoral law. The group alleges that supporters of outgoing President Umaru Sissoco Embalo ordered the expulsion of observers representing opposition candidate Dr. Fernando Diaz, who they claim is leading based on results posted at polling stations. They also reported the deployment of armed security forces to several regional commissions, which they warned could intimidate observers and distort the final outcome. The organizations condemn what they call an escalation of abuses, criticize the National Electoral Commission for remaining silent, and are demanding that all counting take place in the presence of authorized party representatives. Authorities have not yet publicly responded to the allegations. Meanwhile, Guinea-Bissau President Umaru Sissoco Embalo has declared victory in Sunday's presidential election, with his campaign team insisting there will be no second round, despite the country still awaiting official results. Embalo's campaign spokesperson Oscar Babusa said data compiled by their team indicates that the incumbent has secured enough votes for an outright win. This declaration escalates tensions in an already charged political atmosphere following an earlier victory claims by PRS candidate Fernando Diaz da Costa, backed by PIGC leader Domingo Simão Pereira and the broader PI Terranca coalition, which was excluded from participating in the election. With rival candidates issuing competing claims and authorities urging the public to refrain from protesting until the official results are released, Guinea-Bissau enters a tense waiting period. All eyes are now on the Electoral Commission's official declaration, which will determine the country's political future. Well, let's join our man on ground in Bissau, Sani Wimundu, to bring us up to speed with the latest development. Hello, Sani.
A good day, Imo Edet. Indeed, we are currently at the headquarters of the Electoral Commission, where the statement from the network of judicial bodies and electoral administration of the community of Portuguese language countries has just been concluded. Spokesperson Carlos Alberto Cavillo, who is also vice president of the Mozambican Electoral Commission, emphasized that his teams visited several polling stations in Bissau and the Biombo region. The mission considers that the votes on November 23rd, 2025 complied with the electoral legal framework in Guinea-Bissau and was free and transparent. It welcomes the peaceful conduct of the elections. The mission congratulates the people of Guinea-Bissau for their maturity. I would like just to remind that the Electoral Commission has confirmed to WEDR that it will be able to announce the provisional results tomorrow, Wednesday. And globally speaking, the situation is calm in the country, apart from some tensions that have been reported in a few regions. These are the regions of Tombali, Oyo, Kachiu, and Bubak, where young people stormed the regional electoral commission on the pretext that it was rigging the results in favor of incumbent President Umaru Sissoco Embalo. Some even spent last night in these regional commissions in the face of police deployments on the scene. In a short video, incumbent President Umaru Sissoco Embalo asked his supporters to refrain from premature celebrations and wait for the official announcement of the results by the Electoral Commission. His main rival, Fernando Dias, believes that based on the data in his possession, which was collected by his teams, he did indeed win by a comfortable majority in the first round.
Indeed, many thanks, and Mumusebu there, who is on ground in Guinea-Bissau. Now we cross over to neighboring Guinea, where the National Transitional Council, CNT, has adopted a new law aimed at strengthening the legal framework governing political parties. According to the report presented by the CNT's Constitution Committee, the reform seeks to modernize the current legal system, enhance transparency in the functioning of political organizations, and ensure a stronger institutional foundation for parties across the national territory. However, the law has sparked divisions within the Transitional Assembly itself. While some members argue that the reform is both necessary and timely, others warn that it could restrict the freedom of organization and operation of political parties. Chris Vatisha reports here.
According to the authorities, the new law aims to more rigorously regulate political activities in Guinea. It introduces several major innovations, including rules concerning the conditions for the creation, establishment and management of political parties, as well as financing mechanisms. Dansa Kuruma is president of the National Transitional Council, CNT.
We must move beyond the anarchic proliferation of political parties. Some parties, with their connotations, exist only in the name of the sacred. They lack headquarters and members. What criteria will we have for a political party to be represented on the national territory if we don't apply the criteria before its creation? Do we want responsible parties, or do we want to be consistent with the will of the citizens? We have had the opportunity to rationalize and reform the political landscape. Let's not be afraid.
However, Mamadou Fajabaude, a national advisor to the CNT and designated by the UFDG, voted against the law. He stated that the new requirements imposed on political parties significantly limit their freedoms and risks undermining political pluralism in Guinea.
You can't require so many founding members for a political party because it completely blocks the creation of a political party in this country. The idea for a political party can come from the people. This law needs to be a solution. It's becoming a problem.
One of the key points of the document concerns the conditions for creating a political party. From now on, to obtain legal recognition, a party must have at least 11 founding members in each of the country's 33 prefectures and the 13 communes of Conakry.
A report from WDR's Conakry correspondent Chernoff Ibrahim Balden, voiced by Christopher Ticho.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere in the Gambia, public reactions continue to grow over the presence of Cameroonian opposition figure Issa Chiroma Bakari in the country. While authorities described his stay as a humanitarian gesture, the decision is raising a series of questions, from its diplomatic implications to concerns about potential regional fallout. Citizens and civil society groups are now calling on the government to provide more clarity on the circumstances surrounding Bakari's stay in the country. Sang Denomendi report from Banjul.
On the streets of Banjul, public reactions are divided. Some Gambians welcomed the move, describing it as an expression of African solidarity and consistent with the country's long-standing tradition of offering humanitarian assistance. However, others are calling for greater clarity, questioning what the opposition leaders present could mean for the Gambia's diplomatic and political interest.
I think it's very normal for every country to host someone on asylum whose life is threatened based on politically motivated issues, things that has nothing to do with the individual being involved in criminal activities.
But the government needs to be transparent enough to tell us that this and this and this is what is happening, and this is the reason why we are hosted.
He comes to this country in a peaceful manner, and then, he eventually leaves in a very peaceful manner. Hopefully he can return back to his country when things are considered safe for him to do so.
Civil society actors have also weighed in, emphasizing the need for transparency. They are urging authorities to provide regular updates and clearly outline the terms under which Bakary is being hosted in the Gambia. Madi Jobate is among the many civil society voices expressing concern over the situation.
What I would want government to do is henceforth to be transparent about these kinds of things with the citizens, but also I want to see the government not just to host this leader here, but, engage with regional leaders, sub-regional leaders to ensure necessary pressure is put on Cameroon for the respect for the rule of law and the verdict of the people.
Meanwhile, attempts to seek further clarification from the government officials were unsuccessful despite calls and text messages. As the situation unfolds, Gambians and civil society groups continue to monitor developments closely, some with caution, others with concern about potential regional implications. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sang Donald Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Well, Ghana is said to reap major economic gains after the United States lifted a 15% tariff on cocoa and several other agricultural exports. The announcement was made by Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Akudzeto-Ablakwa, who says the policy reversal took effect on November 13, following a new executive order signed by U.S. President Donald Trump. WDL's Accra correspondent Nadi Etete reports.
Ghana's cocoa industry is expected to receive a significant financial boost after the United States reversed the 15% import duty placed on cocoa beans and a range of other agricultural goods. According to Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Akudzeto-Ablakwa, U.S. diplomats notified government officials last week, confirming that the tariff removal officially took effect on November 13. The exemption covers major export crops, including cashew nuts, plantain, avocado, mango, pineapple, coconut, ginger, and peppers. Government projections show that with Ghana exporting about 78,000 metric tons of cocoa to the U.S. annually and global prices averaging $5,300 per ton, the country could earn an additional $60 million, or roughly 667 million cedis each year. The duty was introduced on July 31 as part of a U.S. reciprocal trade policy, a move that triggered anxiety among exporters and policymakers in Accra. Chief Executive Officer of Trade Aid Africa, Nicholas Apokera, believes this is a significant boost for the Ghanaian economy.
And I think that this is a significant win for Ghana and, for that matter, the trade relationship between Ghana and the United States of America. This additional inflow is significant to help soar our foreign exchange earning and help address our balance of trade issues, but also for we, the exporters, it therefore means that what we send to the U.S., our importers will not have to, deal with this 15% tariffs, and so that will give them more room to buy from us. And therefore, once they are buying from us, we can create the jobs and generate the revenue that the economy needs.
The government has welcomed the development, with the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Akudzeto-Ablakwa expressing optimism that Ghana and the United States will continue strengthening mutually beneficial economic relations. For WADR, Nadi Teti, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. CSO's forum in Guinea-Bissau alleges vote manipulation in presidential election as Embalo claims victory. United States lifts 15% tariff on Ghana's cocoa and key exports. Guinea's Transitional Council splits over new law governing political parties. And still ahead in the news, WFP warns terrorist attacks to fuel record hunger in Nigeria's volatile north. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sports update. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org and do follow our live streams on YouTube and Facebook. In Burkina Faso, some members of the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland (VDP) were tried and convicted of murder and the mutilation of a corpse. The crimes occurred in two localities within the Bokle-du-Mohun region. They were found guilty on Monday during a mobile court hearing organized by the Ouagadougou Military Court. Sankle Danko report.
A mobile court session held in the city of Dedougou from November 19 to 21 had 14 cases, including 3 criminal cases. The most notable were those involving members of the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, who were prosecuted for murder, mutilation of a corpse, and desecration of the deceased. These 2 cases concerned 6 VDP members from the localities of Sono and Cheriba in the Bokle-du-Mohun region. According to the account presented in court, 4 auxiliaries from Sono mutilated the body of a suspected terrorist. The 2 volunteers from Cheriba were prosecuted for shooting civilians during a traffic stop. The defendants were tried and found guilty. One received an 11-year prison sentence with 4 years suspended, while the other was handed an 11-year sentence with 3 years suspended. During this special court session, the military prosecutor, Commander Ahmed Ferdinand Sontura, urged military personnel and their auxiliaries to uphold rules and regulations in the fight against terrorism.
Thank you, Janko, with the details of that report by WDR's correspondent Martin Kaba in Ouagadougou. Now, the World Food Programme, WFP, says resurgent jihadist attacks and instability in northern Nigeria are pushing hunger to an unprecedented level, with thousands facing famine-like condition. The UN agency, in a statement on Tuesday, said nearly 35 million people in northern Nigeria are projected to face severe food insecurity during the 2026 lean season, which stretches from May to September. According to the statement, in Borno State, the epicenter of the 16-year-long jihadist insurgency, around 15,000 people are projected to reach catastrophic hunger or famine-like conditions. The conflict has killed more than 40,000 people and displaced around 2 million others in the northeast and spilled into neighboring countries. Last week alone, Africa's most populous country experienced 3 mass kidnappings, while Chile is with the World Food Programme in Nigeria.
What we've seen over the last year is an increase and an intensity of the attacks, particularly in northern Nigeria. Starting with the northwest, we've seen the influx of new insurgent groups that hadn't been in Nigeria before, coming from neighboring countries. But we've also in the northeast seen the expansion of ISWAP and Boko Haram. The effects that these have on people in the north is quite chilling. It means that people are being chased out of their homes, but also they are too afraid to leave their homes if they're there. So, it's like being trapped if you leave, trapped if you stay. So people who would be farming, who would be growing food for themselves and for the rest of the country, they're not doing that. Instead, they are being forced to leave and go to displacement camps, or they are unfortunately stuck at home but unable to go and do the work that gives them meaning, that allows them to take care of themselves.
We're seeing funding cuts not just with WFP but across major international NGOs, and they are scaling down their activities. And for WFP, this is including its nutrition programs. So what does this shrinking humanitarian space mean for vulnerable communities, and what steps should Nigeria and its partners be prioritizing right now to prevent a full-scale catastrophe?
So if we take northeast Nigeria, just the conflict zones of Borno, Adamawa, Yobe states, they now have 6 million people who are food insecure. That's an increase of 1 million people compared to last year. Take WFP, for example. In July, we started scaling down our nutrition programs because we didn't have enough funding. It affected 300,000 children almost overnight.
Chile is a representative of the World Food Programme in Nigeria.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Well, we head now to Monrovia as we join Abraham Parker for the Newspaper Review.
This edition of Press Review features 3 local dailies. We begin with the Daily Observer newspaper. Liberia Land Authority denies allegations over 500-acre land deal, suspends 2 county officials. SCDR builds capacity of customary land forest governance structures in 3 counties. Liberia emerges as a regional aviation regulator as aviation meeting opens in Monrovia. And University of Liberia launches landmark solarized infrastructure project. Well, that does it for the Daily Observer newspaper. Up next is Front Page Africa newspaper. Vice President Kun, staff were arrested in alleged bribery plot to free drug suspect. Vice President distances himself, backs full prosecution. As Liberian Vice President Joel Howard Taylor to address high-level women's leadership forum in Burkina Faso. And corruption scandal hits disaster management agency as FPA probes Senator Duncan's explosive complaint. Up next is the New Dawn newspaper that goes with these headlines. Citizens demand transparency in Oranto ordeal. Liberia participates in the 34th section of IMO Assembly. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review. From Liberia's capital Monrovia, is back to you in studio.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker, with the Newspaper Review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, we'll take you back to Guinea-Bissau, where the political atmosphere there is heating up following the 23rd November presidential election, as civil society groups are raising serious concerns about the transparency of the vote counting process. They allege that supporters of outgoing President Umaru Sissoco Embalo forcibly expelled observers representing opposition candidate Dr. Fernando Jazz, who they claim is leading based on results displayed at polling stations. There are also reports of armed security forces deployed around regional counting centers, sparking fears of intimidation and possible manipulation of the final outcome. With the National Electoral Commission yet to respond to these allegations, uncertainty continues to grow. Well, to help us understand the implications of these developments and what this means for Guinea-Bissau's democracy, we're joined by Austin Igbe, the Wadr lead, to echo us on this development.
In fact, that's what is coming out from Guinea-Bissau. Right now, the speculations are very strong. In fact, civil society organizations have released a statement unanimously condemning the action. It is obvious that by Sunday, by the time the votes were coming out from the polling unit, that the opposition candidate was already coasting to victory. And the strategy from Umbalo, the current president, is to try to usurp those results and try to find a way to change them. And the best way to do it is to first put in motion inability of the Electoral Commission to do their function appropriately by removing all other presidential candidate agents representative at the collation center, because they have a responsibility and a duty. All over the world, candidates have representative. In some countries, like in Nigeria, you call them party agents. So they have those party agents as designed by law, because they needed to see what's happening from the voting point to the counting point to the collation to the announcement process. But Umbalo has declared those representatives persona non grata and have sent them out of those collation centers, which is against the norm. We are also hearing that Umbalo have also sacked all the judges who will be responsible for the confirmation of the result. So even when you count these results and collate them, and the announcement is made to the fact that the opposition candidate wins in the election, there will be no constitutional court to confirm the result.
Well, security forces are reportedly being deployed to several counting centers, raising concerns about intimidation. What does this signal about the broader political climate in Guinea-Bissau? And what risk does it pose for stability in the coming days?
Umbalo deployment of security forces is aimed to frighten the civilians, the defenseless civilians. Umbalo has used the security forces to undermine democracy for too long in Guinea-Bissau. Don't forget, Umbalo was the one who dissolved parliament, and we are aware he has dissolved the constitutional court. So it's now, because he's he calls himself the general of the people, is trying to militarize the entire country. This is clearly civilian coup. Security forces have no business in the electoral process. They are to support the civil authority, which is the police. And I want to call on the security forces in Guinea-Bissau to respect the law, to respect the will of the people, to respect the citizens whom they swore an oath to protect and to defend.
Austin Aigbe is the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network lead to ECOWAS. And in sport news, the Nigeria Football Federation NFF has begun a sweeping overhaul of the Super Eagles squad as preparations intensify for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Top federation officials say only players who demonstrate strong club form, fitness and genuine commitment will be considered for selection. A senior NFF official said that the reforms became necessary following the national team's recent disappointments, especially their failure to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. As part of the restructuring process, Super Eagles head coach Eric Schell is expected in Abuja for a decisive meeting ahead of the team's AFCON training camp, which opens on December 10. Schell will work with NFF technical heads to finalize a squad list and set a clearer direction for the team's rebuild. The push for early and decisive action mirrors concerns raised. Nigeria will play all their group stage matches at the First Stadium in Morocco as they chase a fourth AFCON crown. The Super Eagles began their campaign against Tanzania on December 23 before taking on Tunisia on December 27 and wrapping up the group phase against Uganda on December 30. With expectations high and pressure mounting, the NFF's new direction signals a bold attempt to restore the national team's pride and return to winning ways in Morocco. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Mustafa Sek for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms: X, TikTok, Instagram at WADR English, and Facebook West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.6